They planted the flag and claimed the island of Cozumel for the Republic of Texas.
Hey, Congo, hi.
Welcome to Galveston Unscripted. What comes to mind when you think of the Texas Revolution? Maybe the Alamo, the Goliad, San Jacinto, maybe people like Sam Houston, Mirabeau Lamar, or even David G. Burnett. You might even think of armies marching all over the state, fighting for the land that became the Republic of Texas. But did you know that Texas had a navy? For a majority of the time that the Texas Navy existed, the port of Galveston was its home port. Let me show you something right over here. So right now I am between Pier 20 and Pier 21 at the port of Galveston. Have you ever noticed this historical marker right here on the grass at Pier 21? Dedicated to the First Navy of the Republic of Texas. This historical marker was dedicated in 1936, 100 years after Texas became a country. If you didn't know that Texas had a navy in the first place, surprise, it had two. Let's get into it. Thank you to our video sponsor, The Daily News, bringing you the news since 1842. Support your local newspaper, The Daily News. I'm definitely gonna need a little help telling this story.
My name is Andy Hall. I've been involved with for the last several years the Texas Navy Association, which is a 501c3 nonprofit educational organization preserving and presenting the history of the Texas Navy, the Navy that actually existed during the time of the Texas Republic.
The Texas Revolution occurred between October of 1835 and April of 1836. Texian colonists were fighting for independence against Mexico.
Early settlers in the 1820s and 30s leading up to the Texas Revolution had a huge appreciation for maritime trade and the importance of keeping that connection open. In the mid-1830s, there began to be this tension between the Texas colonists and the Mexican government.
Mexico was harassing vessels supplying the Texian colonists.
One of the first things they did was try to find a way to protect that connection. There was a big push in the fall of 1835 to establish both a naval force and a force of privateers. In late November of 1835, the Texas Provisional Government actually passed legislation that established the formal Texas Navy, acquired 4 small schooners: the Liberty, Independence, the Invincible, the Brutus. Those are sometimes called the first Texas Navy.
The Texas Navy patrolled the Texas coast, defending it from the Mexican Navy.
By the fall of 1837, all of them were lost to one cause or another. And the Republic of Texas spent the next 18 months or 2 years actually without any formal navy at all. Under the Lamar administration, when they passed legislation to purchase ships, to have ships built to equip the Texas Navy at the end of 1838 and into 39, that became what is known as the Second Texas Navy. The Texas Navy did play an important, critical role. It's not a glamorous role, but it's an important and critical role in the revolution itself, and contributing to the victory at San Jacinto. The Invincible, which captured a brig called the Pocket down near the mouth of the Rio Grande, that carried supplies that made it back up to Galveston and, we believe, to Sam Houston's army prior to the battle. And so the supplies from the Pocket managed to get to Sam Houston at the time. Much of Santa Anna's army was detached. Many of his troops were detached from the main body of the army, just going out and foraging and trying to bring in supplies just to keep the army fed. Sam Houston, his army was also in bad shape, and so they very desperately needed those materials brought by the captured and seized by the Texas Navy.
Texas was an independent republic from 1836 to 1846. But Mexico did not recognize Texas independence and were consistently attacking by land and sea. Texas Navy took the fight to Mexico, to the Yucatan Peninsula, spreading the Mexican Navy thin, taking the fight to them instead of Mexico bringing the fight to Texas. And the Texas Navy even claimed the island of Cozumel as Texas territory for a brief period.
In August of 1837, the Invincible and the Brutus had been on an extended cruise down around Cozumel, all along the Yucatecan coast. They planted the flag and claimed the island of Cozumel for the Republic of Texas, which unfortunately we didn't follow up on that. And the idea was, we're in conflict with Mexico and we want to keep them away from the Texas coast. And the best way to do that is to stir up things down here. Because Yucatan had its own revolutionaries. It had its own independence movement at the time. And Mexico was not just dealing with a bunch of ornery settlers in Texas who wanted independence. they were dealing with an insurrection in the Yucatan Peninsula as well. And so taking the Texas Navy down there and stirring up trouble, it was strategically sound, or perceived to be strategically sound.
Right. Whenever Texas officially joined the United States in 1846, the Texas Navy was absorbed into the U.S. Navy. There are even 2 Texas Navy vessels within a couple miles of me right now, but they might be hard to get to.
There are 2 known Texas Navy wrecks that are here in Galveston. August 27th of 1837, the Brutus and Invincible were followed back to Galveston. The Brutus was the smaller of the 2 ships, and the Brutus entered the harbor. It was a falling tide. The Invincible was quite a bit larger and drew more water, and these 2 Mexican warships showed up. And they ended up in a long-running battle, 2 or 3 hours. They tried to get the Brutus back out to help and assist the Invincible, but the Brutus ran aground and unshipped her rudder, and that didn't work. Finally, Captain Thompson of Invincible decided this is not going to end well, tried to make a run for the harbor, and unfortunately grounded, and the ship was lost. Within 48 hours was battered to pieces by the surf, so that nothing was visible above the water. And the wreck has been lost really ever since. One is a steamship that came later that was part of the 2nd Texas Navy, the Zala, which is located within the boundaries of the port of Galveston. That ship basically died of neglect because there wasn't any money, and it was left to rot at its moorings. And eventually a lot of that material was sold at auction, and the hulk was just left there. And when the port came along in the late 1800s and expanded, that area where that ship was in the water was subsequently filled in. And it is now west of the 2nd cruise terminal.
Who knows, would Texas be what it is today without the Texas Navy and their contribution to defending the coastline? The Texas Navy Association lives on and focuses on Texas history education and preservation. Go check out the Texas Navy Association. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Go check out the podcast and go check out the interview with Andy Hall with the Texas Navy Association. Andy is extremely knowledgeable and has written a couple books on maritime operations in the 1800s in Galveston and Texas. You will not be disappointed with this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Galveston Unscripted.